I go where everyone is friendly. I go where I am known. I go where I'm not an illusion. Where I go, I've noticed. Everybody goes there. Everybody goes there.
Could microplastics be affecting your health? They're in the water we drink. They're in the food we eat. They're even in the air we breathe. And scientists have detected that microplastics are even in the human body. If you want to learn more about this and what we can all do about it, you're going to want to stay tuned on this show. Welcome to Around Town TV Live. My name is 𝗟𝗏𝗄𝗧, America's lifestyle and business experts. We've been featuring the best kept secrets, products, businesses, organizations, and people since 2003. We are Minneapolis-St. Paul, the Twin Cities' longest airing television community showcase. And tonight I am so thrilled to have with me two legends and leaders in this industry, both Dr. Eva Berkus and Dr. Nicholas Mansell. Please welcome them both to the show. Thank you for being here with me tonight.
Our pleasure, Carla. Thank you so much.
Before we get into microplastics and the show, I want to give a little bit of a background on both of them. Dr. Berkus completed her medical education at the University of Florida and then pursued advanced fellowship training at the Scripps Research Institute in La Jolla, California, where her work focused on integrating clinical care and molecular research in immunology and microbiome science. Dr. Mansell completed his surgical training at the Yale University School of Medicine, followed by fellowship training at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, where he joined the academic faculty. While at Hopkins, he was actively involved in basic science research and trained both residents and fellows, cultivating a translational approach to medical innovation rooted in the frontline experience. Together, they combined their expertise drives Quorum's mission to develop clinically meaningful microbiome-based technologies that support human health through natural science-based solutions. I know a lot of science words here, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a background because these two have been doing this a long time. They're leading microplastics. And what we're going to talk about tonight is My Gut Health, Qi601. For those who aren't familiar, what are microplastics and nanoplastics, and why are scientists around the world so concerned about them?
Nick, you want to take that?
No, you got
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I mean, honestly, plastics are materials of human design, and I really do mean that literally, because the advent of really commercialized large-scale plastic manufacturing really has been less than 100 years ago. So since the 1950s or so, we've been making honestly incredibly useful products out of plastic. But the problem is that plastic is not biodegradable. So plastic breaks down, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, and the plastic objects that you see, you know, let's say your phone case or your pen or whatever you have in your vicinity, they're going to crumble slowly or faster, but they're going to reach microplastic and nanoplastic size, and that is less than 5 millimeters, so smaller than an eraser head, and less than 1 micron, which is about the size of a bacterium. And there are honestly innumerable of these particles probably sitting right in front of you, Carla, on your desk or on your microphone.
Right.
So micro and nanoplastics are very modern, and we didn't mean to make them, but they're increasing all the time.
How do these tiny plastic particles get into our bodies?
A lot of ways we don't know, but what we do know is that the smaller the plastic particle is, the more easily it can cross your body barriers. So if it's a nanoparticle, for example, that's smaller than a bacterium, you can imagine how incredibly tiny that is. It's invisible, And the smaller it is, the better it gets into, let's say, across your intestinal lining, or inhaled into your lung, or across your skin. So that's basically how it's a tiny physical particle that likes to go anywhere it can.
Well, and for those of you that are tuning in and watching, above all the videos, we go out to 8 different places at once when we're live streaming. And if you're interested in this product at all, I put a little bit of information and the link above this. So if you're wanting to get in on this product right away, you can go to the website and click on that as well. Or if you're seeing this after we're not live anymore, feel free to click on that for more information. Why has this, meaning microplastic, become such an important area of research over the years?
Well, over the past couple years, there has been research into where plastics are ending up in the human body. And before, before it was, no one really knew the consequences. In fact, we still don't know the consequences. And even before that, it's also difficult to try and measure plastics because it doesn't have a biological footprint. And so slowly but surely, over the past, let's say 10 years, people are starting to look at, okay, it's ending up clearly in our gut, right? Because that's a large part of where plastics enter our body. It's coming through our food, it's coming through, soda cans, for example. So we start looking at the gut, and then clearly that the plastics are ending up in the gut tissue. But then they kept on going. They looked at it, and for example, there's a really seminal article published probably about 2-3 years ago, looking at plastics in the brain. And so that was phenomenal. Once that broke, then we realized that there may be no limits to where plastic is ending up in the body, because the brain has a blood-brain barrier, it's protected. And so once it actually got there, then the doors opened up, and they're looking at now inside plastics inside arteries. We're looking at plastics inside the placenta, which we will get to in just a minute. And so all these different topics, it's just sort of burgeoning right now as where are we looking in the body.
Right. To think even from the brain to, water that we drink, the food we eat, the air we breathe, and that there's so many health problems right now, how much of this is contributing to that, and what can we do about it, which is obviously my gut guardian, Qi601. What is Qi601?
Actually, it's a probiotic that we very gently have inactivated, meaning it's not alive anymore. And the irony is that, in fact, it does a better job at binding to things, including plastics, as an inactivated or not live probiotic. So those are called postbiotics, incidentally. Postbiotics are essentially probiotics that aren't alive anymore. And in our case, when we took a look to see how it did, live versus dead, frankly, it did a really lovely job binding to micro and nanoplastics when it was no longer needing to be alive. And that's a good thing, because live bacteria, including probiotics, are actually killed by higher levels of micro and nanoplastics. So the very thing that you're trying to, encourage to grow in your gut, for example, is also directly harmed by micro and nanoplastics that are toxic to it.
In simple terms, how does this work, Qi601, work inside our digestive system?
Nick, did you?
Yeah. Well, so it we use the metaphor, it acts like a magnet. And it because it's a postbiotic biofilm, meaning that, again, what Ava said, it's not alive. And the biofilm actually makes it sticky. It's the postbiotic actually sticks to itself.
Okay.
And then because of its very lipophilic nature, oil-loving nature, it also then is able to bind plastics to it. And so it works by, first of all, it sticks to itself and makes larger aggregates such that it's not able to be absorbed across the GI tract, one. And then second is that it actually binds and attracts plastics to it because it is very oil-loving, or very, what we call in science, lipophilic. So it binds plastics right from the get-go, from the mouth to the stomach, the intestines. It binds it, and then because it's too large, over 200-300 microns, then it just binds the plastics and then you get rid of it then naturally.
Well, and as we're going through the show, I know you have different diagrams and things that you want to bring up. So just let me know if there's anything as I'm asking you these questions that pertain or something that you want to show as we're going throughout that we can show the viewers at the same time.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's, you know, this was a journey. This was not like, you know, we woke up one day and said, oh, well, let's just do that. It was a journey. And, you know, that journey actually started off with the Department of Defense. So essentially, Ava and I were going around the world giving talks about sort of biofilms and what we had. And the Department of Defense, DARPA specifically, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, got a hold of us because they liked our idea about using something that's natural, something that is safe, i.e. a probiotic bacteria, that is able to bind stuff, right? So it can bind, we were charged by DARPA to sort of figure out what bacteria can bind chemical and biological weapons for the warfighter, right? So there's the idea. So we had something that could bind chem-bio threats for the warfighter, and then we sort of evolved to understanding, it's like, wait a minute, you know, binding toxins for the warfighter also has applicability for plastics. So it's been an evolution for the past couple years. So I can show you like a cool picture or two.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Was part of our evolution in thinking. So
this is great. For those of you who oh, go ahead.
Am I sharing the screen right now?
It looks like you are. There's something ready to be. You want me to add? Is that the one?
Yeah, yes, that's the one right there.
Okay, there we go.
All right, got it. So what this is that these are 2 test tubes. And each test tube has equal amounts of red nanoplastics. And so just to get an understanding, nanoplastics are so small, you can't even see a nanoplastic under the microscope of a normal microscope, right? So 2 test tubes, red nanoplastic floating around in some water, and one of these test tubes has the postbiotic biofilm. And it was very instructive because this is a time elapse over, I think, about 10, 15 minutes. So again, one of these test tubes has the postbiotic biofilm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So this is the activity. This is the postbiotic biofilm, and is able to then, first of all, bind to itself. And second, it binds up the red nanoplastics and it sucks it down to the bottom like a magnet.
If you look carefully on the right, you can see almost a little bit of plastic snow.
Right.
It's so cool. But essentially, the nanoplastics are so small that unless they stick to something like our Qi601, then they stay distributed in the water, which is why the tube looks so red on the left, because those nanoplastics, they're just happy floating around and turning that clear water red. But on the right-hand side, 601, our inactivated probiotics, start sticking to the nanoplastics. The nanoplastics get heavy and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they start falling to the bottom like rocks.
Got it. So with something like a Qi601, if someone's already taking other vitamins or medications, does Qi601, can they take both, or do they have to stop taking anything else?
No, they can easily take both. And in many ways, our inactivated probiotic is safer than a live probiotic, which are already super, super duper safe.
Right.
The vast majority of these are bacteria we already have in our bodies that are working hard to do something good for us. So this is super safe, and it's easy to be added to any other regimen.
Well, and I know this topic is not only exploding. There's been a lot in the news about microplastics and also, but what's interesting lately is hearing all the stuff in the news. Nobody really talks about, except for both of you, what you can do to solve that problem. And if someone's watching this today and they can only remember one thing from this entire show, what do you want that to be?
I don't want them to feel like they're powerless. We've spoken with a lot of people. We went to Washington and spoke with a few dozen people. And one urge that we try to get people to overcome is their tendency to put their heads in the sand because they think they can't do anything about it. But I don't think they should feel so powerless. You know, people like us, we're working on something that we think is safe and healthy and worthwhile doing. And there are other practical things you can do in your own life, like eating, you know, less processed foods, getting rid of your obvious plastic foodware, not reheating food in plastics, and all that stuff that just, it really adds up.
Well, and that was going to be one of my next questions is, you know, the health concerns, things, you know, what can we do? And maybe even pointing out things that we might not realize, like, for example, I'm guessing drinking water out of a plastic bottle.
That's really unfortunate, especially for us here in Florida, because to be honest, I used to drink plastic water pretty regularly because it's so hot and you leave a bottle of water in the car and then you get thirsty and you drink it. But unfortunately, just as I said, that plastic degrades, the plastic of the water bottle will break down, just like plastic food containers. When you put them in the microwave, heat is a very good way to break down plastics, and you just don't want to eat or drink anything that's been around hot plastic.
So let's say I'm eating leftovers and I put them on a paper plate in the microwave. Is that still not a no-no? Or
Well, oftentimes with the other disposable utensils, so the paper cups or even the paper plates, if you look closely, they too have a little bit of a plastic lining on it. Now, I'm sure it's not all of them, right? But again, so when you're heating that in the microwave, or you're pouring yourself a nice hot cup of coffee in the little plastics, you can see the sheen inside the plastic cup. You probably are liberating millions, if not trillions, of plastic particles in whatever it is that you're eating or drinking.
Yeah, those disposable coffee containers, Carla, that you get at your favorite coffee place.
Right.
Unfortunately, and this was a study done by the government. It was done at the EPA, actually, really beautiful study, which showed that hot water, hot coffee, hot tea extracts literally a trillion nanoplastic particles within the first few minutes that you're sipping your coffee. You're helping yourself to something a little extra.
Well, and that actually makes common sense. But as we, we've shared what the product is and a little bit about the history and background, the government's involvement. Do you feel like for our viewers that might help them understand this a little bit more, would the next steps be going toward the science piece of it, the history and background? Or I know you've got, Dr. 𝗏𝗀𝗀, some pictures and other things that you wanted to show our viewers too. So I want to make sure we're able to do that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, we made the metaphor that 601, postbiotic biofilm, acts like a magnet. And I can show you a picture that actually demonstrates that.
I would love that.
Okay. Let me see. I think it's this one. Oh, I need to share the screen. Hold on.
Yep. And as soon as it pops up, I will share it on my end. All right, I'm not seeing it. Let's see.
No, it's not opening up for some
Oh,
reason.
okay. That would be why. For those of you who are just tuning in, my name is 𝗓𝗏𝗄𝗀, Around Town TV Live, and tonight we're talking about the Gut Guardian, Qi601, and I have Dr. Eva 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Dr. Nicholas 𝗏𝗏𝗀 here discussing their two leaders, global leaders that are, you're not the only ones doing this, but you're leading the research and the science and the technology of this. And this Qi601 is something that can help be a solution, but it's important that you understand microplastics that are in the body and how that happens and what we can do. I will turn it back over to you.
Okay. This is one of our favorite pictures. And as I said, we were going along trying to understand, what do we have and is it working? And so this picture right here was one of our second clues that this postbiotic biofilm is able to bind plastics. And so what this is a scanning electron microscopy picture. The resolution is 1/1,000,000th of a meter, so it is really small. You cannot see these things under the light microscope. So these little tiny pebbles here, that is the postbiotic biofilm that's sticking together. And this overall size is probably in the order of about 150 to 200 microns. So again, it's forming like this net. And these little round spheres here, or these moons, right, or Saturn back here, these are 10 micron plastic spheres. And so what you're seeing is that this postbiotic biofilm is sort of gobbling up the 10 micron plastic spheres on the surface, but then also it's engulfing it. So there are other plastic spheres that are embedded in this biofilm matrix.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point of this picture is just to say that we are surrounded by truly microscopic micro and nanoplastics, but that if we can bind them up, if we can group them together in larger pieces like we do here, then their ability to harm us is much less because they're bigger. You know, what are they going to do? Rolling around in a blob of microscopic harmless bacteria is not much. They're going to wind up in our guts and then have a hard time getting into our bodies. Then our bodies can just naturally get rid of them the way they should in the first place. We're just encouraging them to do that more efficiently.
Got it. So everyone has microplastics in their body. It's found in our food, our water, plants, sea life, animals. There's millions of dollars that has been spent on patents. You both have what, 50 patents?
Yeah.
Yep, 50 patents with 20 pending worldwide. And Qi601 was developed to target microplastics that are in our body. It attracts, it binds, and expels 98% of micro and nanoplastics from your digestive system. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And, you know, honestly, we developed our inactivated probiotic to protect our body barriers. That's our kind of major impetus, is how can we defend ourselves in a world which frankly is becoming more and more threatening. And we looked to do it with something that's benign and even good for us in other ways. And so that's how we came across developing this inactivated probiotic. It likes to escort things that really aren't healthy for us, that don't belong in our bodies. It just benignly binds them up and then encourages the body to do what it should. So
Got it.
that's what we've been working on for the past several years.
And did I also understand when I was reading and kind of researching that it supports mental clarity too?
There have been some people who reporting back to us that they feel that there's more mental clarity. Yes, so we think we can understand, actually, you know, we don't fully know why that's happening. You know, so we're just focusing right now on the mechanisms and of that.
I don't know. I think there's more mental clarity if you have a bit more peace of mind.
100%.
I mean, I feel if I'm less threatened, I can certainly be a happier, clearer thinking person. And I feel more protected, honestly, when I take my own product.
Absolutely. No, and I'm the same way. And knowledge is power, as they say. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you both on the show, is to explain to people things that we may or may not know that we're hearing out in, like I said, this has been in the news a lot, especially lately, about microplastics in the body. But a lot of people don't understand what that means, how that's happening, and what we can do, and what that can do beyond that. But there is a peace of mind knowing that Qi601 can help us digest that into our systems and help combat that as well. When the government, you said that the Department of Defense, do I have that correctly?
Yes.
Started funding this. Did I read correctly that it was a product to protect our soldiers and our first responders from chemical and biological warfare?
That's correct, yeah. So the whole idea, again, is barrier protection. So you can't get much safer than looking at a bacterium that has already been registered by the FDA as being safe, and then using that to bind up potential harmful chemicals as a barrier protectant, almost like a microscopic glove, before it then enters the body. So DARPA and the Department of Defense did engage us originally to develop that technology, so warfighter protection against chem bio threats. And then it evolved into also barrier protection for plastics entering our body. So there's a continuum here of our thought and our science.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. How long has this have you been working on this?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer because this actually started about 10 years ago. And so, one thing leads to another. One thing leads to another. Computer. One thing leads to another, and then you take learnings from that, and you say, okay, well, this is what we have, and this is what works, what doesn't work, and then you keep on sort of going forward. So it literally has been 10 years. Although for the plastic binding component, we've been working on pretty intensely now for the past 16, 18 months or something like that.
I was going to say at least a year and a half.
Yeah.
Year and a half.
Yeah. And a lot of the experiments that we've done, Carla, we literally make up because they haven't been done. They haven't been done before. What we're not showing you, of course, is the many times that we haven't gotten the nice pictures, or the experiment didn't work. There are lots of those, but that's just kind of the name of the game in science. But we keep at it, and it's pretty cool. No one's done it before, and we can figure it out.
Well, it's like clinical trial.
Yeah, the running joke around here, by the way, for Qi601 is that it took us about 601 tries to get it right.
I was wondering how you came up with that name, and I love the Gut Guardian because that really does tell us what it does.
Yeah, well, it truly was. So that 601 was the scientific experiment that identified this particular bacterium, this particular way of making it, so that it had the efficacy that we were looking for. So it's actually not too far from the truth. It did take us about 601 tries to get it right.
Well, and that's a true scientist and a person that's really loyal to this product and the solution for all of us. Now, as we know, there seems to be, aside from the Gut Guardian, other products out there for different solutions that have nothing to do with this, and there's always side effects. Are there any known side effects for this?
Well, we did our diligence. And so we literally spent about a year and a half with the FDA, giving them all the evidence that we had about this bacterium. We did a genetic sequence. We looked at the source. We looked at all kinds of technical stuff like horizontal transfer elements and production of anything bad. And so after assembling all that information, we gave it all to the FDA, and the FDA said that this bacterium is safe. And it's not too common, but they gave us what they call a GRN number. GRN number is actually a stamp of approval from the FDA identifying this as a safe bacterium. So I don't know how much more safe you can be than that. And we've had a lot of people now taking this, and we are not hearing any side effects, except mental clarity.
Which, no, bummer, right? I know I could, as I age, I can't tell you, sometimes I'll walk into the kitchen and what was I here for? And so that alone would give me, and I think a lot of it is, we just have, a lot of us have so much on our plate and we're always running hard. And, but like Dr. 𝗏𝗏 said, sometimes it's just that peace of mind of knowing that you've got something that is helping you prevent more, or help, I guess I'm trying to think of the right word, but when we have microplastics and nanoplastics in our body, it's helping us get rid of it, or what, I don't know what your exact words is that you tell people, digest it, but explaining that to the viewers. What else haven't I asked you? And I know there's, like I said, I've got a whole list of questions in front of me, but this is your show, and our viewers that are new to this, that are tuning in, I want to make sure they really grasp the product and the problem, but the solution as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to ask David to go through it more carefully, but the plastic exposure, it's not just the plastic cutting boards, it's not just the plastic cups, and it's found in so many places of our body. I think I want to digress just a little tiny bit, but they did a study of placentas, so around the baby, and don't quote me exactly, but at some point like 1970 or so, they looked at the placentas and they found roughly 60% of placentas had plastics in the placenta itself. 1970. So, and then let's say 10 years later, that number went from 60% to, let's say, 80%. And then a couple of years after that, they found that there's 100% of placentas they looked at had plastics inside there. Okay, that's a reflection of the amount of plastics that are being produced per year. And then they went one step further. So after 100% of placentas had plastics, it tripled over the course of 7 years. And so what it's telling us is that we are increasingly exposed to the plastic in our environment, and sometimes unknowingly. And there is a really beautiful experiment that Ava designed and looked at, looking at plastics in places where you would never see, never think to look. Right? So I'm going to share a screen, okay?
Okay, perfect.
All right, got it. Let me see if I can get this one going.
All right. And then I did have a question that was written in the comments. What do neurosurgeons think about the damage that microplastics can cause in our brains?
Yeah. Okay. We'll get to this.
Okay, sounds good.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, Oxy, can you see this right here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, but Jordan, there's the two parts of this.
Yeah, I mean, Carla, did you chew gum, or do you chew gum when you were a kid, or even now?
When I was a kid specifically, I don't a lot now. Sometimes I will if I feel like I have a bad taste in my mouth or whatever quickly.
So did you know that gum is mainly plastic?
I didn't until I learned about this.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I can think of more than a few occasions when I was a kid and I ate my gum. I'm sure nobody ever did that besides me. But basically, there are little tiny pieces of polyethylene and synthetic rubbers that make up the chewy part of the gum. The part that tastes good is it dissolves in your saliva as you're chewing it, and what's left is the synthetic plastic rubbery part. So that's part of what you're looking at here. Is we had people come in and chew gum. They were typical gum chewers. I just went to go get some gum at the local drugstore, and they chewed that. They didn't swallow the saliva that they generated, and we collected it instead. And then we stained it with a special little stain called Nile Red, which stains things that are water hating or hydrophobic. Things like plastics, for example, it colors them red, and it looks really pretty under a particular kind of microscope. So that's what you're looking at here, is a piece of microplastic that was chewed off basically by a person chewing gum, and then we've stained it and colored it, looking at it under the microscope here, and it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, this is their saliva or their spit.
Oh, wow.
So it's being swallowed, and then corollary.
Yeah. So after they chewed a piece of gum, then we had them chew another piece of gum. We gave them a little bit of the My Gut Guardian inactivated bacterium probiotic. So they were chewing a little bit of our inactivated probiotic in there with the gum. We collected their spit again and colored the plastic particles again, just like we did before. And what you don't see is that ginormous piece of red glowing plastic, because what is coating it, what is stuck to it, is our inactivated probiotic. That is Qi601, My Gut Guardian, sticking to the plastic.
So this bright red right here, that's the plastic particle in someone's spit after chewing a piece of gum. And this shading right there, see, I'm not sure if you can see, it's a softer red. That is the biofilm postbiotic that's wrapping up and wrapping around that plastic particle. And that's how it's binding. And so this is very similar to the scanning electron microscopy picture where the moons, again, this is the real thing where it's binding up to plastic. This light microscopy here, this is the same image. So that piece of that gray thing is this plastic particle. And the little tiny dots, these little P dots, that's 601, the biofilm postbiotic, binding up the plastic. And this was part of the first human clinical testing that we did, proving that it binds it in people.
Well, and a question, I know you had mentioned swallowing gum, which a lot of kids do when they're chewing gum, but you don't actually have to swallow it to have plastics in your body, correct?
No, you're exactly right, Carla. I didn't mean to give that impression. These are teeny tiny little particles which can't help but be chewed off and liberated into the spit as you're chewing gum. So even if you don't swallow that wad of gum, like I probably did when I was 6, you still wind up swallowing thousands and thousands and thousands of micro and nanoplastics just because that's the way gum is made.
Yeah, it's
So
frightening.
it's interesting, you just asked a question earlier, and what do neurosurgeons think of this? Well, so here's the anatomy of it all. You're chewing gum, the plastic particles leach from the gum right to the saliva, and then they are in a very, very absorptive area, like the area just underneath your tongue is a really, really good way to deliver nanoparticles right to your systemic, and it goes right from there to the veins and then pumped up right up to the brain. So it is a really efficient way to then absorb plastic particles.
Has there been any research attaching microplastics and nanoplastics in the body to certain health problems like cancer or neurological diseases? Or, I mean, I suppose you have to be careful there, but I just can't help but wonder.
No, you're wondering, Carla, and so are lots of other people. And part of the reason is that if we didn't think plastics were worrisome enough, plastics are also made with other chemicals that maybe we know more obviously are really bad for us, like PFAS, the Teflon chemicals, phthalates, for example, which completely disrupt estrogenic signaling in men and women and children, and also heavy metals. So those quite more clearly obvious chemicals are really escorted, unfortunately, very nicely into the body because they are part of plastic. And if plastic can get in, they bring with them heavy metals, phthalates, and PFAS.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think about some of the food, and like we talked about bottled water, there's certain things we can do, but there's a lot I mean, the air we breathe, I mean, there's so much that we have to just live our lives and do that we can't prevent it other than something like Qi601.
Yeah, that's the thing, Carla, is I have met a few people who tell me that they feel perfectly happy because they're plastic free. And I'm like, okay, I wish I could live in your dream world, but nobody can be plastic free. There just isn't such a thing. And part of the reason why the number of plastic particles in placentas have been multiplying is because, as I mentioned, we started manufacturing plastics on an industrial scale in the 1950s, only the 1950s. So the production of micro and nanoplastics, it's on a line straight up because they're being produced from plastics we made 70 years ago. And yet we make more and more every year. So this is not going away. It is simply going to get worse. So I don't really think we have time to wait to do something about it.
No, we don't. But you've already created something so people don't have to wait. And I've put the link in above this. And not only is the product affordable, I saw where this product, so it's what, $59.99 on the website? In Dubai, it's $160.
I know.
$160.
Yeah, we're not sure how that happened. We're not selling overseas, but
Oh yeah, right. In Dubai, right.
Yeah.
Right. So people, and this is manufactured in the United States, correct?
Yes.
So and you can get it here and shipped here for a great price. I mean, think about putting a price tag on your health. People spend triple that for I know my monthly gym membership is $186.
Right.
There you go.
Well, I don't know about you, Carla, but I also take other vitamins. I take, and so do a lot of people, women's vitamin C, vitamin D, maybe vitamin K2, calcium. You add together all those things and it's not a small amount, but what are they really doing for you? I mean, I do them because I think I'm supposed to, but I don't have any obvious evidence. But I guess I've convinced myself with my gut guardian.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because my late mother, who was terminally ill for 27 and a half years with metastatic breast bone cancer for 12 years and too much, but she had breast cancer and she beat all the odds. But one of the things she did was, well, not only was she active and a great attitude, she was a big vitamin person. And a lot of times people would tease her and they even would bring it up with me at the doctor, like, well, is this really helping her? And the doctor said, well, if it's not, she has the most expensive urine because she had every vitamin. But he said, isn't it interesting that her blood work and her health, other than cancer, is always perfect? In fact, her joke was, I have blood work to die for. And she was,
Oh, no.
yeah. And the oncologist in her would laugh. So, I mean, there is something to doing what we can that is a healthy option to help us be healthier. And especially when you think about all of the cancers, all of the different things out there. And I know we have to be careful in the correlation, but just common sense tells me, like you said, other people were wondering too. I read daily. I'll be on Instagram, and when I'm going to bed, sometimes I'll read and it'll say, well, you shouldn't have this chip or this, even just like certain, I'm thinking creamers in your coffee and all the things they can do. And you start reading through it, and even with the nanoplastics and the microplastics, and I'm thinking, well, it's in everything. So
Actually, Carla, there was a really nice study, I think it was done by a group of Italians, if I remember correctly, about a year ago, and they did really a very interesting dietary study. They compared what they described as the typical American diet, which we can guess what that might be, highly processed, heavy in sugars and fats. They compared that to the Mediterranean diet, and then they compared those two against a vegan diet. And they estimated if you eat the typical foods in each of those diets, what is your micro and nanoplastic exposure? Can you guess what they found?
what?
I didn't guess. It's actually the vegan diet. It's the vegan diet. Yes, and it's because the micro and nanoplastics are so abundant in our environment, quite literally, the environment that we grow our foods in, the environment that the fish that we eat live in. They filter plastics. The fruits and vegetables that we eat contain plastics. So the irony is that the vegan diet actually had the highest load of micro and nanoplastics of those three.
Wow.
Also, ironically, the American diet had still significant plastic exposure, very significant. It was equal to the Mediterranean diet, but the conclusion was that because the Mediterranean diet has other advantages for us, antioxidant and cardioprotective, for example, that regardless of the plastics we cannot avoid, that is still the healthiest diet for us.
Wow.
So
Okay.
to me, that just emphasized if you think you're being uber healthy, there's a limit.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do. So, did I hear that correctly? You said the Mediterranean diet?
Yes, that was they all had a lot of plastics. Vegan was the worst. Mediterranean was equal to the American, but the Mediterranean diet was still better for us.
Yep. And that makes sense. But just some of the things I've been reading as I was even prepping for this show. But the vegan diet, that kind of.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So there you go. Wow. So your laboratory studies demonstrated up to 98% retention of microplastics. What does that mean for people? We've been showing some diagrams and things like that, but let's explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So first, let me just say that we used many 1,000+ times the amount of micro or nanoplastics that we think we're being exposed to. We used a huge amount in our studies. So finding 92 to 98% of a huge amount is still way more than what we need on a day-to-day basis, at least so far. So the bottom line is that Qi601 and My Gut Guardian is able to absorb, bind up, stick to, and hopefully carry away a huge amount of micro and nanoplastics that we can't help but be exposed to on a daily basis.
Right. Wow. That makes sense. And, this is a safe product. We've talked about that, but who is Qi601, My Gut Guardian, designed for?
Well, honestly, for anyone, but it's for those people who are concerned enough to do something for themselves in the face of the modern environment, because it's not going to get any better. We got to get up and do something about it. So it's for any of those people. It's for people who, like you and your mom are like, you know what, I'm going to take my vitamins. I'm not sure what they're doing for me, but I think they're good. I'm going to stick with it. It's the modern environment.
Absolutely. And if you're somebody who's healthy and you eat right, maybe you even eat the Mediterranean diet and you exercise, you're still exposed to microplastics and nanoplastics. So this is still something you need to, if you're just tuning in, you need to listen to and understand what my gut guardian, Qi601, does and why it is so important. What are some of the biggest hidden sources people don't realize they're consuming microplastics or nanoplastics?
Well, in some ways, I think it starts off, you can go through your day.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off with a toothbrush, right?
I hate to make you afraid of brushing your teeth.
we have gone bamboo in our house.
Right.
So I don't know, you just sort of walk through your day, and so
Mhm.
it starts off with a toothbrush, okay, fine. And then perhaps you end up at your coffee place and you get a nice cup of coffee there. That's fine.
No.
We can't do that anymore. And then, and then perhaps like you have a piece of fruit and you realize that it can be, I'm not sure how many all fruits, but it can be. It's in your carrots because it's actually in the fertilizer, in the nutrients.
Wow.
So it gets sucked up right into the vegetables and the fruits that we eat. So you can't avoid it there. And I'm not saying you got to starve. You just need to sort of think about it differently. That, and as Ava said earlier, it's not the cutting board, not just the cutting board. It's not just the heating up things in your microwave in plastic. That's a good start, and it is certainly reasonable, but that's not the end solution. That's not the only solution. You need to also look at it from a protective barrier. And then I guess you go through your day. You go through your food that's been wrapped and packaged in plastic. And, obviously the bottled water is yet another source. But I don't know, and then you end up with your day brushing your teeth once again. So,
Right.
and maybe throughout the day you chew a piece of gum as well.
Right. What does the future of microplastic research look like?
Better. I think it's going to be better. I mean, finally, I think we have a research division of the government that's interested in doing something about micro and nanoplastics. It took them a while to get around to looking at PFAS, but they finally did. So that's good.
Good.
So I think better. More people are becoming aware of it. More people are becoming concerned about it because the exposure is on a vertical acceleration path. We are now in generation plastic. There is no kid alive who hasn't been born more than likely with plastics in his or her body. So I think we have to face the music, so to speak.
Well, and if you could tell every family one thing about microplastics, what would that be?
Just be aware. I think, like Nick said, you could take even a portion of a day a week and go, okay, well, what is my exposure when I, drink that little nice morning tea that's packaged in a nylon bag? That's called trillions of nanoplastics right there. I used to buy those cute little packaged teas. And then I read that article and I was like, okay, never again. Loose leaf in a little paper tea bag, for example. Just little things like that can make a big difference you would never know.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that till now. Why do you believe this research has arrived at exactly the right time?
That's a good question. Maybe you answer.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, I think people are, first of all, becoming more aware that the environment has a big impact on their health. And it's being supported not only by people just in general looking, but it's also being supported by the medical community. And so what I mean by that, it's a little bit technical, but so we have our genetics, right? What we're born with. But then we have what we call the epigenetics. So all those things around us that influence then our genetics at the core. And there have been some estimates, that 70 to 80% of what we are, how we live, and how we live is really influenced by the epigenetics. In other words, the environment that we live in. So I'm saying all that because this consciousness about the environment that we live in, be it stress, be it, what we eat, how we treat ourselves, what we eat, exercise, those all influence who we are. And I think there's been a consensus now, both from the scientific and medical community, and also the general public at large. And there seems to be a large confluence that this is an important problem. And it certainly rose to our attention. We have 3 young kids. And obviously we want to do the best for them and also for everybody else. And so I think we had a technology. We're in a unique position, I think, because we're both physicians as well as scientists, and we're able to blend the two. So it's not coming at it just from the benchtop research. We have, over 20 years of clinical experience in what people are doing and what they want, and what are the forces that medicine is not addressing right now. So I think we just happen to be in the right spot at the right time to put our knowledge and our talents together, and come up with a solution that we think is going to benefit a lot of people.
Well, and a lot of people didn't even realize, and like I didn't, until there's been a lot more in the news, until I learned about this product. In fact, as I shared on our show last Tuesday evening, it was 2 dear friends, Pamela and Wes, that introduced me to Qi601. And as I learned more about the problem, and then realized my gut guardian Qi601 is a solution to help. There you go, everybody. If you have a solution to a problem, and think about what this problem can do if you're not using Qi601, all the various health issues. We've seen, I don't know about you, but I have seen more and more and more people, and I'm hearing this from friends and colleagues and family, of people with health issues, whether it's cancers or autoimmune diseases, heart issues, just so many different things. Brain cancer seems to be on the rise. Well, so many different types of cancers. And I just can't help but wonder how many things come from having plastics in our body, microplastics and nanoplastics in our body.
Yeah.
I think more is going to come out about that in the next couple of decades, to be honest. Right now, people with enormous labs and lots of money are trying to figure out how exactly to accurately measure plastics and nanoplastics in our bodies. And that's a lot of work. But it is happening. It's happening right now that this is a major impetus that the federal government's putting $100+ million behind. So the answer will come. But in the meantime, I've often looked at what I would do for my patients in terms of the classic risk-benefit ratio. So, okay, if something is going to give you a little bit of benefit, but too much risk, then that's not worth it. On the other hand, if something is going to give you even a potentially significant benefit with a pretty darn small risk, then that might be worth investing in.
Absolutely. I agree. And for those of you who are interested in purchasing the product, learning more about it, I put the link, and I'm pointing above because this show goes out to 8 different locations, and you can just click on the link. It explains a little bit more about what we've been talking about in the show. Microplastics could be affecting your health. A lot of us, and like myself, a lot of you probably didn't realize they're in our water, they're in our foods, they're in the air we breathe. And scientists like Dr. 𝗂𝗑𝗏𝗏 and Dr. Nicholas Munsell have been studying and detected that microplastics are in our body, and what we can do, like purchase my gut guardian Qi601 to combat that. What else haven't we covered that you've wanted to talk about, share with the viewers, even show the viewers on some of your diagrams if we haven't covered everything that you had wanted to show in the show?
I think there's only one thing, there's a lot of information, and we wanted to put it in a sequence that's understandable. And so it's already ready for a second version, which was just about 6-7 months ago. But we put our thoughts down into a book, and it's a very thin book, but it sort of explains. It starts off like, why plastics were so good. In fact, the book is called Miracles to Menace. Because originally it was a miracle. It was lightweight. It was used in World War II, more and more, all the way.
Flexible, durable, malleable, all those great things.
Right. And then flexible, durable, malleable, and then you got color to it, right? So again, different colors, and so it put together sort of the timeline why it was important, why it was a miracle, when
Can
it
you
was
hold the
used.
book up a little higher so they
Oh,
can see
yeah.
it? There you go.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it really was. It's miracles to menace. How initially it was a miracle, it became part of our daily lives, until we realized, like, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's not so. Maybe it shouldn't be part of our daily lives. I mean, the irony of it is that in hospitals, you get this plastic IV bag, right? And they warm it up and they run it through plastic tubing and right into your body. So, there's ironies abound everywhere, and that's how integral it's become to our everyday lives. And so, this is an attempt here to put our thoughts together, to show the timeline, and also to show some of our research, which is, it gets updated almost every month or two around here. So,
where can somebody purchase that book? At the
this
website?
Book's on Amazon.
On Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
All right. Well, we can go back in, and it's called again. Say the name.
Miracles to Menace.
Miracles to Menace. I
Yes.
will add that in the link when we're done. So for those of you wanting to purchase the book as well, you can do that.
So yeah, Miracles to Menace, how plastics rewrote the human history. And in fact, we are in, quote, the Plasticine era, that plastics in the environment is actually defining geologically what's happening. What two doctors saw under the microscope could change the way you protect your body from plastics.
Wow. There
That
you
about
go.
sums it up.
Yeah, that does sum it up. Anything else?
No, just thank you very much. I hope a lot of
Yeah.
people listen, and they feel free to ask questions. Our website, Quorum Innovations, track some of the history of what we've done, who we are, and how we got here. And so it's important. Ask questions.
But also do something about it. Even if even if that person out there who's listening goes, yeah, I'm not sure I really feel like spending $60 right now. Just do something about it. Go figure out where your major plastic exposures are in your processed foods. Get a metal bottle or a glass bottle for your whatever fluids you lug around in the day. Try to wear more cotton. Get rid of the plastic food containers. Just stuff that you can do that really won't cost you anything, and might save you a lot of money in the long run.
Absolutely. And clearly, this is something that has sparked a lot of attention, not only in the news globally and here in the United States, but there's a reason this product is exploding, that people want it because they know there is a problem. There are concerns, and this is something that can help and give you that sense of peace, as we talked about earlier in the show. So and the book. I mean, if you're somebody who, okay, this is great. I've been online, I've been listening to different things, and there is a wealth of information. We only tapped into just this much. As you saw, moving around my papers, and those who tune in know that I usually have like 2 sheets in front of me. If that, I've literally got about 20 pages here, and so it is very involved. But and we tried to bring it down to, as they say, layman's terms, and not keep it so sciencey. But the book will explain it. The website is amazing. All your websites are, to delve into it a little bit deeper, but don't hesitate to jump to that link to read a little bit more. Click on the link to purchase that or the book. What else before we close?
Stay tuned. We have more. Stay tuned. We have more things that are coming out. Yes. So we are evolving weekly around here.
Fantastic. Well, and I hope to have you back on the show as those things do evolve. And for those who are watching, we've had people from all of the different platforms on tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I know this is a little bit different from some of the other products, but we don't. A lot of times I will share. Anything from lifestyle and businesses, but all of you do know that I've always been concerned, having grown up with 2 parents that were not only terminally ill together, but my dad was in the medical device and health, and both my parents were all about health and wellness. So this was very important to me to be able to share with all of you. And How ironic. Next week, we're going to switch gears and we're going to go feature one of the largest state fairs in the world, which is the Minnesota State Fair. And for those that don't live here, they don't understand. It takes years for vendors to get in, and many people make more with their companies in those 12 days at our Minnesota State Fair than they do with any of their other locations year round. Meaning like if they have like a stand there or a built-in stand versus, and I was thinking as we're talking about, microplastics and nanoplastics, can you imagine how much is probably at the fair? But the fair is the greatest sort of get together. And I am so excited because they were featured on our broadcast show for about 15 years, and it's really exciting to have them back on our live show next week. So please tune in for that. Thank you again to both of you for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedules to share this great information with my viewers tonight.
Thank you, Carla. It was lovely to be here.
Great.
Thank
And thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. I will see you next Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here on Around Town TV Live. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.